Hello, I'm Eagle. Eagle Gardens one on Instagram.
Uh-oh.
Did he just manage to get himself kicked out of his own room? Oh, we're live, by the way, so let's keep talking. Hey, y'all. We are live on YouTube, and our host has disappeared.
It's a takeover.
Apparently he just turned it over to us. So ladies.
Oh, there he's back. We held it down for you, Eagle. It's all right.
What a way to start the show. Talk about being nervous. Wow. Wow. Thank you and welcome to episode 439. The ladies of Hash already holding it down. Thank you, ladies, for coming. What an honor it is to have all of you guys on my screen. I have so much respect for all you ladies. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Of course, we have Mila Jensen, the Dank Dutchess, Jen Doe, Jenny Beth Dills. How you guys ladies doing? You guys can say hello as you guys feel appropriate. How you guys doing? Thank you. So I guess, yeah, no one jumped in. Let's start with the queen. Amelia.
Well, what would you have to push something in
No,
to get in?
no, you're it.
It's great to be here anyway, and it's so wonderful to see all my friends there. I've been really missing them. I see that now.
We've been missing you too, Mila.
Yeah. For the rest, life is okay over here. It's been a damn lousy summer with hardly any sunshine at all. Now we got these incredible floods in Germany, Belgium, the south of Holland. People are dying and everything.
Being evacuated.
Thousands, yeah.
What's happening? I don't watch the news. I only see what I see on social media. What's going on over there?
We got these big rivers coming like from Switzerland and the Alps and from the Ruhrgebiet and other mountainous areas. And it's been raining like crazy, like a month's rain in 3 days. So all the water runs down and the villages are along next to the river. And the river, instead of going around the village, is just going right through it. Under the houses collapsing. I think they got like 1,300 people totally missing in Germany and 100 dead. It's like quite something.
Oh my gosh, that is so scary.
Yeah.
It's kind of surreal. I live in India. You expect to hear these things. Here, when people tell you that this is going on, last night I could hardly believe it. You know, it's like, what?
Well, it's only like 200 kilometers away, not even.
Oh my gosh. Well, you ladies stay safe.
Indeed. Stay dry.
Yeah, Mother Nature is quite the bitch sometimes.
Yeah, really, really, really.
Pretty much.
Oh, yes.
Bombolinat.
Duchess over there smoking proper. How you doing? How's things where you're at? How are you and how are the things where you're at?
I'm doing fine since I last talked to you. You know, it's been a good time. Your grow I see is looking amazing behind you. So most of my time is focused on the grow and making hash. I mean, really, it's always the same. Making hash and the grow. Every one of these people here. To grow and making hash. So it's been good, you know. My weather is not as bad as Mila's, but I do live in the Bay, so it's high of like 69 pretty much every day. No real summer. Jenny Beth is probably having a better summer, or even, you know, Jen Doe. Can't hear you, baby.
Well, let's take it right there, Jenny Beth. How are you doing and how are things where you're at?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's hot. It's very hot in SoCal right now. It's really interesting. Most of my time is focused on trying to figure out how to design a cultivation that can run in a sustainable manner in a really hot SoCal climate. So that's where my main focus has been, and choosing cultivars and things like that, and trying to figure out what operations we can make work in the desert, which is not great. for extraction, not great for cultivation, not great for anything. But so yeah, that's kind of how things have been down here. But I'm honored to be here. These ladies are insane. So I'm so honored to be included in this. Thanks for having me.
It's lovely.
Miss Jenn Doe. Miss
Me.
Jenn Doe, this is my first encounter with you. Hello, and it is nice to formally meet you for the first time. It is a pleasure to get to speak with you. How you doing, and how are things where you're at?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little hard to get my hands on, or your hands on me sometimes, because I've been running around like a crazy person trying to, oh my gosh. So I moved back from Oregon like 9 months ago and walked into a huge russet mite infestation that the people living here had kind of gotten into. And so I've spent the last 8 months, we'll call it now, battling that and trying to, eliminate everything that could possibly bring them back. I've had 2 crops that I had to cut down prematurely because the second I thought the problem was gone, it would come back. So then I had to give myself like 2 months of complete downtime of just disinfecting my entire place, not having any plants. And now finally I put in like a little half room so that I could have something going. But if it was too, catastrophic, if that shit came back, then I wouldn't lose so much. But I got myself a good microscope and I've been scoping everything every day and I have tackled them. So you don't know stress until you realize that this is like your only form of making a living for yourself, and microscopic creatures that you can't see are helping to absolutely fuck you over. So yeah, so that's been my life so far. But things are finally getting good. Hash lab is running again. I'm not used to the humidity here in the East Coast, so I'm getting used to that. Yeah, that's my life. Hash and weed. So yeah. But yeah, thank you for having me.
No, thank you. Thank all you ladies. So I'm curious to know, and anybody jump in whenever they see fit. What was the initial, everybody loves hash in every type of form, but what was the initial draw the first time to want to make hash? What was that? This is good, but I think I can do this. What took you there?
Do you mean what made us start making hash?
Yes, ma'am.
I actually started learning with BHO, and I had a bunch of men that didn't want me to participate, even though I was the one that was supposed to be running it all. And so I was like, fine, fuck you guys. I see where the future is going with BHO anyway, because it was, 8-9 years ago when people started blowing up apartments and BHO really started getting that negative attention. So they wanted to push me out. So I was like, fine, I will do it my way. I saw somewhere online that I can do this with water. So I'm going to do that. And yeah, that's why I started. I just didn't want to compete for something that I knew was going to be so overly regulated in the future anyway, that I couldn't do it individually. So I kind of pivoted and I'm happy about it and I'll never look back. So yeah.
First time I made hash was actually with my daughter in the Himalayas, and we used to rub the buds, and then you'd wipe the hash off your hands, and you could smoke. The second time was when I came back to Holland after living in the mountains in India for 14 years and not liking the hash there. So in the end, I had to invent the pollinator to be able to make enough hash for myself. I was growing at that time, so I had plenty of material. And of course, I'd learned in the East several methods of how to separate it. And yeah, the pollinator came out of that, which was purely invented for selfish reasons.
Well, we are so grateful for that. Like, so grateful for your innovations because they definitely have helped everybody. So we love you, Mila. Ugh.
Oh, Jenny, I thought you were gonna go, Jenny. Okay. I got into hash to be able to write for Weed World magazine. So Frenchie offered me the opportunity to write for Weed World magazine. And so I didn't want to be a hash maker. I was a grower. So that's what I was gonna do. I was gonna grow weed and write about it. And the first time I made hash was 2014 with Frenchie. And that first time was when I was like, oh, this is what I do. That's it. So that's how I came into it. I actually didn't know anything about hash. In fact, I thought it was chocolate when I had met Frenchie a couple months prior. But we developed a nice rapport. And when he offered me the opportunity to write for the magazine, I was like, oh, yeah, I'll definitely do that. And he was like, you need to learn how to make hash to do that. I was like, oh. But that's how I became a hash maker. And then, hash is amazing. So how could you stop being a hash maker?
Good for you.
Yeah, so I came up through the hydrocarbon side like Jen, and I originally wanted to learn how to make hash because I wanted to be better at operations, right? And I felt that if I was going to be running these facilities, I really wanted to understand and I wanted to learn. And at that point, I had been blessed with some really amazing friends that were willing to teach me. Shout out there, Jenn. Shout out all those guys. And when I first washed, I was cold and I didn't like being cold, but the second that we pulled the first bags, I was like, oh shit. It was the instant gratification. And I saw kind of the more artistic side because I didn't just want to learn how to wash hash. I also wanted to learn the genetics. I wanted to learn how to breed for hash and how to select because that's really a lot of what I do operationally. So I really, truly wanted to understand. And then I found out that I really liked doing it a lot more and that being cold was, you said it best, I think, Dutchess, one time on an interview, you said, I really didn't like the noise, but being cold wasn't quite as bad. And I was like, that's it right there. Because the noise is grating, but like, it was being able to watch something and go from start to finish. And like you said, Jenn, to be able to do it yourself. I didn't think that I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. And I'm just so grateful to be surrounded by these women and to learn from you. And yeah.
I mean, in reference to what Jenny Beth is saying, the first concentrate I made wasn't bubble hash, it was CO2. I went to Seattle to make CO2. And if you haven't made CO2, the noise, that was it. I was like, oh, I can't handle this. I cannot handle this. So I didn't recognize in mind that hash was obviously just another concentrate. I of course know now, but the first thing I did was in January of 2014. It was CO2. Mind you, I felt like I was special as hell, making this concentrate. But the noise was just too much. The noise was too much. The cold is not as bad, but the cold and the wet, all y'all know. The cold and the wet is the worst. See, we're all nodding. The cold and the wet is the worst.
Yeah, I've definitely had to address that because of personal reasons with cold and wet. And I've found ways around it. Thankfully, it's amazing when you hate something and love something so much at the same time. It's amazing the innovations that you can come up with to, address those negative parts. Like I found myself a heated vest that I can put under my jacket. And it's ran off of a little battery charger. Yes, Dutchess, I see your face. Yes, it's ran off of like a little battery pack that you would use to like an extra charge on your phone, but it just goes on the inside pocket and it's actually got heat that comes through here and then also through your back. They also make coats if you're more interested in that, but obviously with the hash making, we want to stick it to our chest and our back. The other thing I found that's super helpful is rubber gloves that go to here. And they have to be a full size bigger than your hand because then I put on the little mitten gloves, the cotton ones, and then I put on plastic ones, and then I put on sometimes an additional mitten one, and then I shove my hand in there. And, you know, you just got to find the right gloves. You can get the right finger movement. But if your hands are frozen anyway, I notice that I still don't get appropriate finger movement because of the cold. So I might as well be warm and still have like that glove restriction. But yeah, just like little tricks like that. Like I'm sure you guys all have your own stay warm tricks. And yeah, you deal with the parts you don't like because the parts we do like make it worth just about any hoop I have to jump through to make it happen. So yeah.
Well, I think it's awesome that you guys are helping keep the hash making tradition alive. Flat out, and help start it, Miss Amelia, and keep it alive. The rest of the panel there, because I feel like the hydrocarbon side of things at one point almost canceled out real traditional hash. I think the shatter and whatnot came on so strong and so fast as the market was emerging over here. A lot of the younger folks that never even experienced hash didn't get to know it. They knew more hydrocarbon side of things, and now are, just because of amazing abstract artists like yourselves, are being back to a good cold water extraction. And then, in my opinion, is way better. I enjoy the water hash 100 times more than I do the hydrocarbon side of things. It's just me. But I appreciate you guys, taking the ball and not, letting anything get in your way to keep this tradition alive. And you guys have kicked ass along the way as well. Much respect to all you ladies. So is there a favorite cultivar you guys like to work with when you're producing your hash? I came across one that is like, this one I could work with for quite some time. I need some time to master it because some strains do take a little mastering.
Dutchess, you got an answer? I've seen your.
Oh no, I was looking at Mila actually. I just got
Mila? Yeah.
I love the level of respect on this call.
Anybody want to jump in?
All right, I'll jump in. I don't have any favorites. I'd like to say that my favorite is something I've never washed before because I get that anticipation of like, oh my God, what's it gonna do? There's so many like sections in the spectrum of like, I've literally washed something that I was so excited to wash. Like my whole room smelled like citrus, amazing. Like I think it was a Tangy land.
I'm about to ask you, is it a Tangy? You're about to tell a terrible story.
Yes, I'm about ready to tell a really heartbreaking story right now. Yeah, it was Tangy land, and it was actually done by one of Crockett's little businesses that they had in Oregon at the time. It was the little girl they had in a shop. So I went in to wash some hash for them, and I like harvested this plant all by myself, like so careful because I was still, fairly fresh to it. And this is the first time I'd ever washed anything for anybody but myself. So I'm like taking every precaution. I get that home, I fucking wash it, and I literally pull a bag and I'm like, what the fuck? Pull another bag, what the fuck? Pull another bag, what the fuck? Like there was nothing in it. There was maybe the size of a dime or quarter in the bottom of my 25 bag, nothing else. And I was just like, what the fuck? So it was horrible. That's when I learned that some things literally like they will just disintegrate and there's nothing. So to redeem myself, because I'm just beating myself up at this point, I'm like, oh my God, I broke it. I don't know what the hell I did. Like they're going to be so upset. So I ran some of my stuff, and I think it was probably like Gorilla Glue or something that's nice, good yielder for us. Washed it and was like, oh, thank God it wasn't me. Now, how do I tell these people about their hash, Thankfully, they understood. And so they were like, oh, I didn't think that would wash anyway. And I was just like, you couldn't have told me that. Do you have any idea like how broken my heart was? Like, I seriously thought that I failed as a hash maker. So, but like I still get that anticipation. I think because that was my first wash for somebody else, I still get that real nervous anticipation no matter what I'm washing that's new. And when you do get that yield that you're like, oh, you're pretty, like it's so great. But there is that like huge risk of like, this could give me nothing and I could literally cry my eyes out at any second. It's great.
I just did a consultation like that, like, and it went exactly the way you said, right? Mm-hmm. So I went out, and so now, I mean, I made a mistake in the sense that now I scope everything beforehand, because every grower thinks that every frosty thing that they've made is going to be a dumper, and that's complete nonsense. In fact, most of those things are not going to be a dumper. Most things are not going to have the right structure so that it's going to work out for you, right? But this flower is beautiful. It smells so good, you know, and there were high hopes for it. Girl, I think that got less than 1% on fresh frozen, right? So I am losing my mind, because it's like 2 days straight that we have been doing this, and the yield, I mean, it's beautiful resin. The yield is so terrible. Then they're like, oh, you know, we also have like all of this amazing trim. I was like, for real? We couldn't have done that? Okay, let's pull that out. We did that. It dumped so much. I was like, okay, obviously not technique. Then I looked at the flower finally under scope. Hardly any heads, or like really little heads. And that's the scary part, is about doing something for someone else. But I agree with you, Jen, when you are getting that new thing, especially when it smells good, and you're just like, it may be the most amazing hash. You know, everyone's always looking for that amazing hash that's going to drip, and maybe you might be the person that found it. And most of the times it's all right. Sometimes it's terrible. And every so often you're just like, let me call home to mama about that. So I agree with that. That's good for me. In terms of dry sift though, I like Durban poison. That's just random, just because it drops so easily for me with dry sift. And maybe Kovalo Jagu. I think that could be really good in dry sift. But otherwise, everything is, like Mila would say, whatever's in my hand at this time. Whatever's in my hand at this time is the best.
That's a good attitude to have, Mila.
This is it right now. It's all I have, so this better be it.
Yeah, I think another thing I really love about the new stuff is like the new colors of the water that come out.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Isn't that the best?
Having a microscope can be very useful to prepare one for, you know, if you'd look at that bud beforehand, that material, you would have seen there was nothing on there.
I felt so stupid. I mean, I went through, like, I'll be honest, like $11,000 worth of material. Oh, shit. I wasn't thinking of crying. I was crying. I was back in my hotel room like, oh my God. You know, I was like, I can't understand why this is working. Then I said, did I scope this? Okay, let me scope it. Then I was like, all these heads are pin heads. Oh, God. But, you know, we live and we learn.
You gotta cry a little bit to appreciate the wins as much as we do, you know. And yeah, I'm a girl. I cry a little. So what?
But that's right too. They just don't say it. But you know, every so often it's just
right.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you do scope the trichomes there, does age matter? I mean, when you look at it and it, you know, it's clear to cloudy, or you know, cloudy to amber, does that change your approach at all? You know, in the method.
The approach in making the hash, like, would we choose to make a different type of hash based on what it looks like?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you just don't run it, but I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I defer to you, Jen and Mila and Jenny on that.
Yeah, I think it all depends. Like the first initial process for me is always the same. And then I think it's more like post-processing that I start to look at things like that. You know, I don't know. I'm a strong believer that the color of the hash is really not leaning towards it has to look this certain way, because people are missing so much from the plant when they're looking at it like that, you know? So yeah, it doesn't change what I do with the hash if it's darker. It also just depends. Like I've washed some really amazing dried flowers that were grown to fruition and dried and cured properly, had the long cold hang on it to preserve everything. And it's made some really dark heads, but that's because it was mature, and like the boldness of flavor and the effects you get. That's really, I think, what it comes down to for me, as far as evaluating different colors and whatnot, is evaluating the different types of high that I can expect from that hash. You know, the lighter stuff, the longevity isn't quite there. You know, you'll notice that unless it's a naturally light hash, you know, if the resin on the plant naturally doesn't amber out that dark, that's a whole different story. Like GMO, it's really hard to get that to amber out. And so therefore it always creates kind of a wider hash. But when these other plants actually come into the full cure, like I've made some of the best hash I've ever smoked. Still absolutely melty as can be, potent. It's like rich, you know, and it punches you in the face. So, I mean, I think as hash makers, we're kind of responsible for educating people on that fact, because our consumers only kind of understand what direction they're led in. Oh, this is the best, that's the best then. Oh, wait, this is the best, that's the best then. It was the same with hash. And when BHO came out, you know, all of a sudden, like people that I couldn't get to buy pressed hash to save my life, like I would give it away just because I was passionate about hash. Was like, guys, this is like the strong part of this, you know, like let me gift this to you. But until they had a new method of consuming it that was more on a popular end, because all of a sudden we have dab rigs, we have gadgets, we have tools, we have like purpose for these tools, and that's the hash oil, then they kind of went to that and they're like, oh, that's the shit, you know? And so as hash makers, like we kind of have the ability to lead the market with education and, you know, kind of like dispelling some of these myths, like, oh, the whitest hash, like, is the best. Like, no, it's not. It's really not. And there's so many differences in between that color. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of us get kind of stuck to what the masses want. If you're consistently producing a darker hash and your client base is really wanting that white hash, doesn't matter how much dark hash you make, you're never going to sell it. Doesn't matter how hard you try to educate them at the time. You got to realize that's a long process to educate them and lead the market to, you know, what we consider like the proper evaluation of hash. But that takes time. So unfortunately, we're all catering to this market that was created, and it doesn't actually allow us to have that full range of what we want to do and what we feel is best without taking that risk, you know. But I think as time goes on, people are catching on better that like the color is actually a really good indicator of different things, not a good or a bad, but more of a this effect versus that effect. So
well, when I was in the States, I was working with people who were using all these fresh frozen. And then in the end, whether they smoked it as hash or as rosin, it came for a very quick, very high, but it was very short. And that brings to mind this Afghan guy who came to my garden in Amsterdam one time. And I told him, oh, tomorrow we're going to chop it down. And he was all aghast. And I explained the people smoke the weed. And I asked him, and he said he would let it mature for another 2 weeks. So I know in America it's very popular, all this transparent and white things, but I think it's not mature and it hasn't developed its full scope of what it can contain as a mature crystal.
Mm-hmm. I make that brown hash. I can make the white hash. I like the brown hash. I'm about to post some nice brown hash because it makes me happy. And it's because I have smoked enough hash. I sure haven't smoked any mila amount of hash. Maybe not you, Jen, because you've been smoking for a long time. But just because of the amount for writing for the magazines and the amount of hash that people give me, I can tell you, I've smoked a lot of hash. And what I've come to find is that when people come on that single micron, obviously pulled 2 weeks early hash, the flavor can be there, not all the time, but the flavor can be there. But it's a pretty high up and pretty fast down. If I want rosin's up with a little bit, depending on the range. It could last longer, especially if they're using a full spectrum. But if I want to be punched in the face, like Jen says, I'm going for hash above all. And I personally like partially decarbed hash, which is why it turns a bit brown. But I have years of seeing this was like not pressed, this was pressed, this is really early, this is later, and what is most effective for me. And for my issues, my depression, my anxiety, my general enjoyment, I'm going with what works for me. And I agree with you, Jen, in the fact that the market is, pushing for one thing and you might do something else. I happen to believe, though, that, I would take another different job, but I'm going to stay with what I'm doing. And what I like is pressed hash. And eventually you'll see the market will come around if we educate one at a time, or using social media and great amounts of people. However, you will see that some of the top people are big on disinformation because it works well for their pocket. So they're going to tell you nonsense, or they're going to tell the customer nonsense. The customer doesn't have anything else to base it on but the fact that, like, oh, such and such has this many thousand followers on Instagram and they said such and such, so this is the new dogma. And it's like, y'all don't understand science. Like, if you really ask people to break it down, like, why would you think that? And why would you think that? It just comes down to some bro science. And I understand that with BHO, especially dark colored resin, was often due to old trim, badly done, but every situation needs to be taken in context. And if you want to call yourself a hash head, then understand it for real. But when people come in, anyone who calls themselves a hash head and they ask the question of, oh, but is that going to melt? What would color have anything to do with it melting? Unless you're just really just going based on this idea that light color somehow makes better hash. And so I think that, and mind you, I'm not anti light colored hash. I've had some snowman that like refused to turn darker no matter what. So it's just the idea of getting the best possible out of that plant without making blanket statements. And education is hard in the sense that, even though we're all educators, but false information really spreads and sticks really, really fast. So it is, incumbent upon us as hash makers who care about the customer to constantly be educating, but understand they're not going to always take it, but educate anyway. Somebody's going to get it. Somebody of good repute is going to latch onto it and probably is going to make it marketable in a kind of way such that people feel comfortable going the way the market goes. But we're going to smoke that good stuff. Just saying.
To touch on your financial thing, like, if you really want to know, like, what my opinion of why did we get to this blonde hash is mandatory, let's think of
get extra harvest in, to get an extra harvest in.
You pull that shit 2 weeks early. You are literally cutting it down and putting it in the freezer and then running it into water. So you're cutting down on 2 weeks of fucking growing, 2 weeks of curing and drying. You're cutting down on all of the trimming, and it's like, it's a money thing. Like, they cut this 9-10 week cycle from, flower to finish. You cut that now into like fucking 6 weeks and 2 days to make the hash. Of course, blonde hash is better. Oh, why? Because we can pull it down early, because number one, oh shit, we're having problems in the garden.
That's a big one. That's a big one. We need to
pull this. If we pull it now, the problems won't progress, and we will still be able to get something from that.
Yep.
Okay. So they're pulling it early, not only because of that, but then they're like, oh, fuck, wait a minute. So we can do this every time and just tell people that blonde hash is the best. And now we just saved all this money and we have another whole crop. Yep. No dry space. No worries about whether we have issues in the garden, because we're pulling it too early for it to fuck matter anyway. So, like, people don't understand where this drive of the market comes from, and it all comes from the money.
But one thing, when it's harvested so early, I forget that the main growth of the crystals happens in the last 2 weeks. So they're maybe going to have less or many crystals, but they're all going to be team.
So let me point one last thing out. So we talk about the high and the quick decline, right? So how do you sell more hash? you get someone really fucking high and then you take it away. Oh shit, now I need more hash. If you want to take a dab of some well done full melt in comparison to a dab of some early pull fucking rosin, you want to take the time frame in which somebody is actually high. You're high from my full melt for this fucking long. Well, that's not gonna fucking sell because a gram's gonna last me like a fucking week. But so we just get you really high and then make sure that that longevity is gone, so that high just drops off, and all of a sudden a gram's lasting you 2 fucking days. Re-up, give me that early pull shit. Woo! Like, I mean, it's just hidden from all of us. But anyway, sorry, that's my rant.
Don't you remember when rosin became heady, right? Because none of these guys' stuff was melting, so they had to press it.
I know. Why not?
Y'all are not making 6-star. I've seen it.
You don't have to have a clean extraction when you rosin it, because now you have an extra double layer of mesh to fucking filter anything that you missed out. Where we're over here trying to full melt, and we're like ass in the fucking air. Like, if my full melt is laying there and you're looking at it, like, I am exposed. With rosin, like, fuck it, who cares? Just don't push too hard so the green doesn't come out. Like, it's gonna all filter through it. Oh, yeah.
We're not gonna get any like fans with this kind of conversation.
That's why you're trying to be nice. I'm just trying to shut up. I'm like,
we're not, but I mean, the thing is, I'm gonna say that I definitely was a little bit before, I think I did a story in 2019. So prior to meeting this woman, Lo loves dabs a lot. She's a great hash maker. Well, her husband's a hash maker. She's a rosin maker, which now is being called a hash maker. Everything is just being lumped under hash. Anyway, she's a great rosin maker. But when I saw all that went into her process and the science and the art of it, I felt a little bit better, because I made rosin since 2015. I've sold quite a bit of rosin. But to me, the process that shows the quality of the hash maker is in the bubble hash. Let me see those high stars. That's what it is, because you can take flavorful 4.5 star and squish it. I'm not anti what you're doing, but you know what I'm saying? That's not 6-star. That's not 6-star. I've seen Jenn's 6-star. You know what I'm saying? I've seen things melt to water. And there are some other women, Emerald Alchemy, her Purple Princess was like phenomenal back in 2015. So I've seen that. But then I've met quite a few rosin makers who will be honest and say, oh, well, I haven't made better than 5-star, or I don't really even make 5-star. And it's just like, but you're having a problem with your process, but they're making it seem like this end game of rosin is like all that matters. And it's like, y'all don't really know about being stoned, huh? Like, stoned for a long time. Stoned so stoned that you come back to sober. You're just like, oh, I'm somehow back here, you know? I know Mila knows about that kind of stone, like really stoned. And I've smoked a lot of rosin, a lot. Emerald Cup, we had amazing amounts of rosin. But you know what we were super happy about getting to? The 6-star. That's what we were happy about.
What?
The 6-star.
The 6-star. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think also a lot of them don't realize it's who they are washing and pressing for, because I try and explain to people, especially when I'm telling them about the scope. Like, I can scope your shit, but that's not going to tell me what star you're going to get. It might help be an indication to me of whether or not my bags can catch it. But it's not an indication of if it's going to be a 4 or a 6-star. And sometimes it doesn't come down to process as much as it comes down to understanding the heads and the fact that as much as I can see that head, what I can't see is how thick is that head. How much oil is actually contained within that head? Like, I can't see that with the scope. I can only see that once I wash it, air dry it, and then do my whole process to evaluate what star it actually is. And not everybody is blessed with growing good stuff, especially a lot of these facilities that only grow from clones that they're gifted or that they acquire. Like, the thing I learned about clones is nobody wants to give you their number 1. They'll give you their number 3 or their number 2 choice of strain, but everybody wants to hold that good one, you know? And so a lot of them are really not growing to be able to produce the 6-star because they lack the genetics that it actually takes. But they also don't realize that in order to have and possess those genetics, like you really have to do it your goddamn self from seed, and you got to find those genetics that'll do it, because once somebody that's using it for hash finds that, they don't want to give you that strain. You have no idea how much time and money and effort and stress and trial and error it took me to find this one strain. So I'll give you this one, which is good, but like, you can't have this one. So I think a lot of people really kind of failed to realize that fact. And we have a lot of hash makers out there that could very potentially be like amazing 6-star hash makers, but they are at the mercy of what they are provided with, you know, and unless that company or person is willing to put in that effort to find those 6 stars, because they don't just fall in your fucking lap, like you have to find them, you know, and I think a lot of people miss that. And so that's a big deal with hash making as well.
I always start every single talk about hash making saying that the genetics is the most important thing. You know, the genetics are good, and yeah, I don't know how it is in America to get new kinds. I don't know. Here we're having a pretty backward thing happening with all the weed. But anyway, that's another question. But yeah, genetics is the most important. And when you've collected them and look under the microscope, it's the best if it looks like caviar, you know, just little balls, nothing else in there. Yeah. But you won't know what it is until you've smoked it. That's the final test.
I think that's where people get the most frustrated with me, is my definition of single source is pretty specific. And that's because, Jen, you're right. Like, it comes down to the genetics. It's fire in, fire out. So yes, did you get it just from one person? For sure. So like, you have a single homie hookup and that's 2 of you. So now you're not a single source. If you're willing to work something and you can't find what you want, I think that's what was most interesting for me. And what I got most excited about was being able to truly optimize genetics for the type of head production, for what you're looking for, and be able to control the process start to finish. And I think that unless you're either working it, like you said, Jen, breeding it yourself, growing it out yourself, extracting it yourself, and then if you have to, I guess, pressing it yourself, you're not single source. And I think that's one of the most frustrating portions, because a lot of what I do is around commercial production. I'm sourcing for production. So I have to source things that are going to dump, but we also have to give a lot of grace and develop such strong relationships, because most of these hash makers aren't vertically integrated. And that's a really scary place to be as the person who's sitting there waiting to wash. So, you know, there's a lot that goes into sourcing those things, and knowing that they're never going to give you their price pick, you're never going to get quite that close, is a really frustrating place to be, especially in a market that's driven towards this heady boy, unrealistic expectation that we're supposed to have these clear heads because you guys have to chop 3 weeks early because it seems like a good thing to do, because you can now just press it. But no.
It'd be a lot more competitive in the States between hash makers. I don't know. And here, people are happy to give you some new seeds or whatever they're breeding. It's a different atmosphere. Yeah.
Well, we definitely get seeds. It's the fact that not a lot of people will take the time to grow those seeds out. I can't even express how many times I've had people tell me, oh, well, I just grow from clone because I don't want to take the time and the risk that it takes to pop seeds.
Yeah. Popping seeds is the most fun. I mean, popping seeds is fun. That's like where it's at. You just never know what you're going to get. You know, I like popping.
Well, but then, you know, if you don't have that passion for the plant, you're just sort of like popping seeds. I can see how it would be really hard to be able to sift through a bunch of seeds. You're just like, cool, it's all weed. Like, now what? You know, but I don't know. There's a certain amount of passion and like knowing your plant and knowing what you're looking for and having that like desire to possibly waste that time with shit that gives you shit, you know? Whereas you can go to a homie and be like, cool, that does how many pounds per light? Can I have that? You know, but Yeah, I mean, it really takes a special person to be able to start from seed. And yeah, it's funny. I've had people get upset with me when I've had strains that I haven't necessarily wanted to just openly hand out. And I have to explain to them, like, do you have any idea, like, the sleepless nights that I had and the every second I spent up that bitch's skirt, making sure that it wasn't a herm, like, finding any problems, like, I think people just need to understand, like, the difficult level of finding those things so they can have that appreciation for it. But then rosin came in, and it was like, who the fuck cares? Wash it, press it, it's all amazing. It's like now we're just kind of basing it on yield, like how much oil was contained in that head. Like, I don't know, sad, but
Heads are better than small heads.
yep.
Oh, look at those big heads.
I'm not ashamed to admit, I agree with everything this panel has said so far. Everything you have said so far. It's nice to have or listen to a conversation that doesn't end with, dude, you got to press that hash to get the best product. Because I've always, every time I hear that, I thought, man, I've worked so hard to produce an amazing product as it is, and now you're asking me to press it out further, like that's the end all be all. It's nice to hear that there's still people out there that appreciate the hash for what it is. In my opinion, it is a much longer of a high. I mean, you've left a lot more in it, the fats and lipids that help keep it in the system a little bit longer, which you lose through the hydrocarbon side of things. I think that is kind of a trap to get you high, as Jen said there, just to keep you coming back. It's like, oh yeah, it's done. Well, I gotta go back. Well, in hash, you don't have that. You have the fats and lipids and all the good stuff that keep it in your system and keep you high for so much longer. I agree. I appreciate you guys' opinion on not taking it the next step and pressing it unless it's a junk product that has to be cleaned up. I appreciate that. And as far as the color thing goes, anytime I've washed hash and turned around and seen it turning on me, that's always been, in my opinion, a quality of superior hash. If I turn around and it's already turning dark, that to me, and almost every time, is fire, full melt right there. If it sits around and it doesn't turn as quickly as some of the other patties, I know which ones are melty just from the way they turn. And color has never been a factor for me. I appreciate the more darker hash because I, in my opinion, find it to be the stronger of the two.
So another fun thing that I can add to the whole, like, why do people lean more towards the quick high? If you're spending like $10,000 and upwards on a glass piece, do you really only want to be able to smoke out of that like 3 times a day because you're too stupid high? Isn't it nice to be able to bang like rosin after rosin after rosin so that you can use this $10,000 piece that you just bought? Who wants to be so fucking stoned that they can't use it, and also I've noticed there's like the people base like how cool you are by how much you can smoke. So if you can come in with this really heady rig, right, and this really heady hatch and just do one after the next, after the next, after the next, you're getting the money out of your piece. You're getting the props and the pats on the back for being such a gangster. You just banked through 3 grams of $100 rosin, and you're really getting more of your money's worth. So.
I don't know what these young people are doing. Sorry. My chilla, you'll be putting the dankest possible thing, and we'll still be smoking all through the night, but we'll be really, really high. So I don't know what the young people are doing.
Well, right now they're getting mad at me for running my mouth.
I told you you're not gonna make any friends from this little situation. I mean, I personally,
do I ever?
And I don't I wouldn't even share chilling with these people, so I don't care. But if I, you know, we're here to share ideas, and the main thing is that like the dogma of how it should be is BS. We all have different endocannabinoid systems, and what we need is all going to be particular to who we are, and we find a lot of finger pointing again because of the competition, Mila, because of this the society that we have, that we open up our phones and it's just like, are they sending a subtext to me? Are they taking shots at my stuff? It's just like, yeah, these people don't care about you. And if they care that much, then how lame is their lives that they're caring so much about what you're doing? And it's not that it's not. There are not that many women in here. You know, right now, I can think of, if we were to round out this panel in terms of really well-known hash makers that are female, it'll probably be less than 20. And we know each other and we're not backbiting. Amongst the guys, there's a lot of backbiting and there's a lot of macho type of tendencies. And that mentality is an antithesis to actually really growing together, you know? So I'm always happy whenever I run into a woman, a man, whoever, who's willing to talk about hash. We're gonna learn something, I'm gonna try some idea or something like that. But that hyper competitiveness, that's for the birds. And all I could think is, I hope y'all are young and this is just y'all working the last of your extra testosterone out, because that's for the birds.
I don't know, girl. I think it's always been like that with weed. I remember when I first started slinging packs and that was the game. It was who's got the best weed. So I'd always have to pull my big old dick out and be like, I got the best weed and now you're my customer because I gave you a chance. Yours was shit. This isn't about ego. This is about you can get the better stuff from me. You can get better income yourself, but it's always been about who has the best.
Oh, I mean, yes, that competition is there, but what I'm saying right now is we have a different kind of competition, because you have the competition of consumers against consumers about what they bought, where they bought it from, who they're friends with, who they got to smoke with, out of what piece. It's like a whole ego stroke. It's a circle jerk ego stroke at the same time. So, you know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
And who's doing all that jerking? We don't really have the equipment. So I'm just saying.
It's like a whole new generation that's got to learn it all over again.
Yes. Yes.
So I see a panel of well-traveled ladies here. Is there a place where you guys have made any kind of hash that stands out to you? Have you been in, say, France, the Indies, something like that, with a memorable hash experience?
I mean, Spain is good. I mean, Mila's gonna tell you she literally was in India and all over the place. So we have no stories like Mila's. We have absolutely no stories like Mila's. I actually made my first hand wash hash in because I'm a machine person. By the way, just for all you people, I'm gonna be really honest. Everyone has their opinion. And I, for one, believe that this whole remove back to only hand washing is ridiculous. There's certain levels, amount of flour that it's just like, what are you talking about? And I'm working out. Y'all aren't working out and I'm working out. My body's hurting. And it's just like, we're so heady. It's like, get the right machine and have the right touch and you'll be fine. Because there's a whole bunch of 6-star made with plastic machines, and I'm all about the stainless steel also, but everyone who's making it seem like in order to get the best hash, you have to hand paddle. What are you talking about? I've seen a whole bunch of crappy hand paddle like crap. So with that, but I did do my first hand paddling in Spain. I had a great time with it. If I had to choose, I'd still be using a really good machine. I don't have time for that. Sorry, I'm 42.
I'm going to agree with you on that 100%. The only reason that I've been hand paddling is simply because I didn't want to put the money down to buy a second machine to be able to run the amount that I needed to run. And therefore I was like, fuck it, I'll buy a garbage can. And now I'm just like, I hate this so much, you know? Yeah, I agree with you. All hail to the machine. Like, why work harder when you can work smarter?
And it took me
so
5
much better.
years to come up with a washing
Like
machine.
y'all were all about to talk about paddling.
No, Jenny Beth. Look, Mila, thank you very much, Mila. Thank you very much for standardizing and modernizing stuff. This idea that like you have to make it all by hand. Again, that was like an Instagram type thing, man. It was like a whole idea that became popularized. Like, I'm better than you. Look how much better I am that I take it to this standard. And that's again, more ego stroking BS. You can't tell me in terms of those people who are doing acres that you're going to go wash that by hand. That's stupid. That's not thinking smart. That's using your body when you can use, at this point, we practically use robots to be doing that. We need to do all the other things that are important in terms of, even if you're washing by machine, you're watching what the resin's doing, what the ice is doing, what the water's doing. It's not something that like with BHO, you can set it and forget it. But this concept that to be the best hash maker, you have to wash it by hand is nonsense. And if you really, I would want someone to really break down the numbers on me on how they can really prove that that's a good idea.
I agree.
You did third gen. Brandon would have what, like 10 of his giant machines and like 10 freeze dryers, and Brandon's just kicking ass in terms of making hash. So y'all can just quit it with the fact that it has to be.
I mean, like,
hand
that's, and that's why I had him teach me, because Brandon is one of the few people that I will give single source credit to, because he goes from genetic to final product and he busts his ass to do it. But at the same time, he's also working for production. He needs to do something to sustain. Our employees don't work for free, y'all. So like, there's got to be a way to make enough to make the juice worth the squeeze. And that's just really what you have to do to scale. And I'm so glad, because I was like, I'm not out here paddling, y'all. I learned. What's up, Bubble Magic? How are you, friends? It was fire, and it dumped and it melted. So, and I think that's really important, that as we look at this heady boy rosin race to the bottom, we have to have people who have a commercial output mindset, but have a culture focus, right? Who understand how to keep some kind of standards and some kind of, ethics in the game, but still produce on a level that can compete.
You guys think that extracts will exceed hash sale or flower sales someday? Do you think it will be a market where it's all extracts sometime soon?
No.
Oh, I hope not. Oh my gosh.
I don't think so.
If you look at alcohol, how many different kinds of alcohol are there? Everybody has something that turns them on because of, and it's the same with weed. Some people only swear by this kind or by that kind.
Some want extracts and some want oils and some want hash.
I never smoke weed. I love hash. I only smoke hash. Everybody has their preference, and I think we'll always end up catering to that. I hope.
And also, hash gets some people too high. Let's just be honest. We all love the hash. Everyone does not want to be as high as we are.
I was just thinking that.
Everyone does not want to be feeling like, woo! Sometimes people just want a little taste of something. And so that's why they're smoking those like 0.25 gram joints. More power to you. Who are we to say what other people should do?
Yeah. No, I think we might see more hash like through social media and stuff, because those are also like some of the people with the biggest egos have the loudest social medias, so we're only really seeing this much of our actual consumers, and it's only the ones that are wanting to push, the stuff. So there's so many back end consumers that, like you said, like they don't want to get that high, I am a flower girl. I fucking love my hash, absolutely. But if I was told you can only smoke one for the rest of your life, what is it? I would pick my flower, absolutely. I love hash, but there are people out there that like there's a certain like ritual that goes along with smoking my flowers. That's a lot different than a ritual with my hash per se. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that weed is ever going to be less than hash, but I do think we'll see more hash,
I think it will always be there, and it would depend. These things come in waves. So maybe we're in a growing wave.
We'll
I always determine my crop, like when I'm getting ready to pull down, I'm like, all right, where's the market at right now? Are we low on flowers or are we low on hash? Like,
Right.
what is going to be the most beneficial to where the market is currently sitting? I remember there was one year, a couple years ago, that I was like, all of it hash, you know, and I thought that the market was on this hash swing. But it turns out everybody else had the same idea I did. And so we all cut all of our crops down. And then all of a sudden there was this flood of hash, and flowers like spiked in price because we all cut it down for hash shit. So I'm looking at my fresh frozen, trying to figure out like, how would I dry you so I can turn you back into flowers? Yeah, no, it's not gonna work. But yeah, so there's definitely like, I think it'll always be like that. There'll always be ups and downs, and when there's less access to something, like you want that something there's less access to, and I feel like hash and flowers really flip-flop on that. So yeah, I love flowers.
Concentrates are kind of the new kid on the block as far as this particular race. But I don't think they're going to take over and wipe out the rest. That was the original question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did we think that concentrates were going to take over?
No. It might look like
Yeah,
it.
that was the question.
Always be hash. I think I cannot imagine that people really turn away from it.
Yeah.
It will
No.
always be hash.
Fashion.
People who like it.
Yeah, fashion is cyclical, you know, it'll come around. And this year we all want purple. And next year we all want, we want the blonde, or we want the hash that everybody's talking about, because everybody's been talking about it for 2 years. So now I want it too.
Yeah. I mean, I like, you know, because of chillum, I like flower and hash. I mean, I find the chillum to be like most ideal situation. Flower and hash for me. Flower and hash for sure. And because they're different experiences, it's not like smoking weed and smoking hash is going to be the same, even of the same strain. It seems like you get a different experience, you know, based on what you're smoking, what's available. The flower has it all. To me, I feel like flower is very expansive. Hash, I find to be very focusing on like one idea rather than a million ideas. Really, rosin is a bit of a party situation. I don't really rosin and then work, so I can't really judge based on that. Just to say it.
Man, I like you smoking the chillum.
Always, you know me, baby.
69, 70. We used to live with the sadhus and smoke chillum for breakfast. But those days are long gone. Now my lungs can't handle it so good. Chillum.
Doing it for you, Mila.
Okay, no, it's great. I'm enjoying it.
I recognize it immediately. It's not a Dan Valley anywhere.
Yeah, man.
So will super quality hash always stay with the amazing extracts artists like yourself, or do you think that they'll be able to scale it up on this large scale market, or will the large scale market kind of kill it like a lot of the, you know, anymore when I go into a provisioning center and I could see say a Gorilla Glue, for instance, you know, that a home grower would knock out of the park. I'm not so impressed a lot of the times in, you know, from a provisioning center or a store. So do you think large scale hash will be the same thing? It'll be like, or will they may be able to come up with a consistent quality, or will it always be with amazing artists like yourselves?
I don't know if hash will ever be large scale, but it will always definitely be there, because there's a certain percentage of people who just love hash.
There's that.
It has its own special way of experiencing getting high.
Yeah, but also we're talking here, okay, we have the American perspective, and here in Europe already we have a little bit more. But if you look at Morocco, that's a hash producing
Country.
setup. You know, they've focused on that since they figured it out, and man, they produce loads of it, and not all of it is the best. No, for sure, there will always be people who are better, and then there will be the experts. You know, that's where you are blessed. You have a whole bunch of them sitting at your table today. And yes, these modern times, you know, you girls are doing this now. And the Afghanis, the Moroccans, that's what they were doing. They make only hash. They didn't have pretty flowers that they then made hash from. They never even thought about the flowers. So it's a different view that you have there, where you looking at the hash like that. No, you already have a very strong flower base. I don't think anything can threaten that. You'll never convert half the country into changing.
And you know, now that we also before pure pressure management, but we have large scale vessels, you know, to answer Eagle, that will allow you to wash a whole lot more material, whether you're washing it by hand. And now we have all these stainless steel machines that allow large amounts. And I've seen, I wouldn't say on BHO level large scale, but I've seen sizable scale, much bigger than what either of us are going to do with 2 20-gallon machines or something like that. It can be done, but just like what Mila and Milush are saying, that places have been doing it large scale for a long time. Sometimes we're in the States, we act like we're like inventing something. We're like mad late to the party. Okay, so they've been doing large scale for a long time, but mind you, everything is not 00. You know what I'm saying? The whole thing is not 00. The first little bit of it, you know, and if you translate that to our concentrate market, you will find people who are only doing the super, super, super high end, which is going to be small batch to a degree. It's going to be small batch. And then you will have people who are the Target, and then you will have Walmart, which takes up a whole lot of space, because more and more people are going to find out the convenience and the efficacy of using concentrate. So they're going to want it. And we're not going to be able to like sift it. I mean, Jendo will not be sifting all of this resin by hand at home, you know, so there's going to be some mechanical automation that's going to have to happen with that. That doesn't mean that it necessarily has to be 2-star. For those who are listening, we're going on a 1 to 6-star scale. It doesn't have to be a 2-star, but it might be like 4.5-star. And there'll be a whole bunch of people who want to buy that. And the people who want the super 6-star from the big names, that's just like the people who want the super high fashion from the big coutiers, you know, that's what happens. You go and find Jendo, you go and find Jennybwsp, you go and find myself, whatever. So I think there's going to be a huge spectrum of what's available. And large scale is going to have to come in, because if you just see some of the size of these greenhouses that we have here in California and Oregon, and I'm sure going to be up and down the East Coast also, you will see that there's no way anyone is A, washing that all by hand, or B, even washing it in 8,000 small machines. That's not going to work. And once you bring in a whole bunch of larger machines, you just can't do that level of quality control, because hash making itself, at least bubble hash making that we're talking about, requires people to look at the resin. Like the resin tells you so much as you're actually washing it, that you can't just like set it and just be like, in 15 minutes, I'll be back, and then it's going to be perfect. You're going to have a whole bunch of green hash. Watch.
No, even though a lot of people buy their candy at the supermarket, there's always room for the, what you call that, who make special cakes and special. Those shops are always running also.
Yeah, there are some processes that they're replicable processes to a certain extent, right? But you can never control quality, much to what Dutchess was speaking on, much to what Mila said. I mean, that's the beautiful part about hash making, is it's an artisan process. You can't do an artisanal grade product on, and I'm going to lose friends here on this one. I guess this is my turn, but you really can't do that if you want to grow past a certain size. I like, some of the clients that I've worked with are smaller, and they're happy to stay small because they want to keep quality control the way it is. It's a very, skeleton crew. And that's the only way that you're going to get true connoisseur grade legal product on the market, is to get it from someone who's doing it themselves. But yeah, as far as standardizing operations and doing a good job and putting out a good product that will give you a good expectation of what a solventless product should sort of be, you can absolutely get that for $65 to $90 depending on whatever. but it's not going to be great.
Never in those greenhouses.
Yeah.
Those greenhouses can never produce the same quality as a small grow can where.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Well, and that's the other problem there is you can't replicate even a cultivation process on that large of a scale and pay the level of attention to it that you need to ensure that you're giving me an input material that's going to get something that is of the quality that I'm looking for in the first place. So cool. We're going to lose all of our friends, you guys.
I think they could get to a level to make mass production, but it would take it down to the automation clear from the grow level so that everything was, precisely the same. But then you have all the different factors that actually come into growing. So without like a really high-tech situation to where, you're automatically having those adjustments made for you so that everything is running like a machine, like if people perfected a couple of the strains that were specifically for large production hash, and they did have it fine-tuned to that level where there were no variables, I feel like they could automate it to quite the extreme case, but I just don't know that anybody is really to that level to be able to do that consistently. Like there's so much that goes into it. And I think without having that hash mind behind when you're setting up the grow and the different variables, like I don't know that it would translate. So I think it's possible. It's definitely not probable. But yeah.
Jen, what about the fact that we're still like we're not sorting something's dead. We're dealing with cannabis, and she changes things up. So we could have it all set up, and then it could be like, you know what? We've had 2 seasons of a little bit too much humidity, and I'm going to change this way. Now you're like, oh, thank you very much, cannabis. You've changed, so I think cannabis herself is the variable that changes all the time.
Yeah, I agree. Now, the only thing that really kind of leads my mind to be open to something like that is when I went to Amsterdam when I was working with Gavita, and they walked us through all of their fully automated, I'm talking fully automated, huge greenhouses. They are automated to the point where there are 4 people that work these massive greenhouses. The system that they have set up, like for their roses, is all movable. The only time that it's really like, when I talk automated, like precisely, I've seen it. I've never seen it in cannabis. And I remember the first time I walked in and saw those roses, I was like, holy fuck, this could be the future of cannabis. Because what happens is the rose starts here, there's a line, and there's hooks that go across for the person that's snipping the roses, right? So they inspect the rose, snip it, hang it, and then it moves. Well, by the time this rose goes through all its whole thing, comes back and around, it now has another perfect rose. There are certain inspection points in the middle where somebody will come in and double check, but they are automated to the point that legitimately, with the exception of somebody inspecting and clipping that rose and hanging it, that machine then puts it into dozens, drops it mechanically into a bag, and throws it in a fucking box. But that level of detail and of control over your situation, we're not there with cannabis yet, but honest to God, I was so shocked when I saw that system. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be like Back to the Future, where I go into the future and this is fucking weed, because they base it all down to even the time cycle that they know, and they can program it. So if this strain is done at 63 days, they'll program it so that is how quick it moves through the system. That is how quick it feeds the different nutrients. They have these fucking things that unhook and hook for the irrigation, for the water. So they're able to do different strengths, different mixes per cycle with nobody even touching it. Like, it is mind blowing, but we're definitely not there in cannabis. But I would be willing to bet in 20 years or less, we absolutely will be.
I like being plant touching.
Yeah.
For cut flowers, they start with self-propagation, and then it just moves through the greenhouse, and robots control it all. And at the end, the cut flowers get put in the boxes, ready to go.
It is one of the most amazing things I've ever laid my eyes on. I literally was speechless and just like, that was one of the moments in my life where I was like, I see where this is going. Holy fuck. Like,
But Jen, are you gonna appreciate that more than like the weed that like, let's look at you. You go through your garden naked and you're like feeling up on the plants. I need my farmer to love my plants. That farmer being me, but I need my farmer to love my plants. That sounds like so sterile. I mean, that just sounds sterile. I mean, in terms of you know, there's a whole spiritual component to being involved with cannabis, and that just sounds sterile. I know every single one of us has cried when we cut down a plant.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I need a little bit more connection. That's why we grow our own, right? Okay.
I agree 100%. Unfortunately, that's the cute little world that we live in, and that only a very small percentage of this population that's going to have access to this feels. But that's where like we're able to keep that standard where it is. But we got to remember we're only this much of the pie. You know, so yeah, it is up to us to keep that standard, but will that type of process be appreciated? Fuck yes, because it will be available and it will be making a lot of people money. And as long as they promote it properly, then everybody's going to buy it and nobody's going to know the difference. It's no difference than the conversion from full melt 6-star to rosin. Like, look at how easy it was. We care. And that's why we're here. But look at how easy that conversion was, because it did allow more people to jump on that competitive wagon. Now everybody's a hash artist.
And I don't need it to be an exclusive club, but honestly, there were dues paid by everybody on this panel, and more people who haven't like been there. Dues paid by Mila and her daughter that we could never freaking ever imagine, ever. But if you went from squishing flower rosin to now you're getting some hash that you've made or got from your friend and you're squishing and you're like, oh my God, I'm a hash artist. You are spitting on the names of all kinds of people who, look at, she's wearing gloves on gloves and heated clothing, okay? We're putting through it. Let me just tell you something. Okay, I'm making hash for myself. 2 days ago, I'm making hash. I'm picking up the bucket. I'm doing it all right. The bucket breaks and literally spills 5 gallons of water and ice on carpets, okay? On carpets. I live on the 3rd floor. I got these muscles first from like lifting water because I got to buy water. You know what I'm saying? The people are like, I just use the stuff out of the tap and I kind of make this hash and I got my bags on Amazon. And it's like every single part of it, you want to call yourself an artist? Go for it. But like put in the real hard work. And the real hard work does not come from someone regurgitating every single thing into your ear. You doing it one time and then suddenly saying, I'm a hash artist. I can squish this 90 micron rosin. It's like, oh, why did you choose that? Well, you know, that's the headiest. Why? Because that's the best. Because why? Oh, you don't know anything. Okay. But, you know, I'm just saying.
But it's blonde. Look how white it is. So great.
So great.
If they can roll it into a snake and make a donut with it, though, then isn't it heady? No.
Oh, but you know, I mean, with this being said, the industry, we're all learning from each other, but we could do a lot better if there wasn't so much bro science or so much unwillingness to really delve deep into the science of it. So we can always appreciate everyone who's putting the time in to do the research, whether they're doing it experientially, A to B testing or something, but just not regurgitating what they see on the internet, not testing it. You know, I've heard enough to know that's not really going to push our industry far. And sharing information is going to push us the farthest. That's it. Sharing information and educating ourselves, but also having the responsibility within ourselves to self-educate. Everyone who's just asking a question in the DM, that's not research. That's not research. Can I pick your brain? No, because you weren't picking up this ice when it was 2 a.m. and I was making the hash by myself.
Yeah, I try and tell people like I'm more than happy to answer specific questions, but like don't come to me and be like, I want to make hash, ready, go. And it's like, can you have like a basis? Can you at least tell me you tried? Can you at least tell me you've done all this research and you've done this and you would like to know if you've missed anything? But you have to have some background in it. I can't just give you my whole story. I mean, I'll do it in online courses one day, and then you can pay me to give you all of that, and I'll give you access to everything. But exactly, like, I don't think anybody else was freezing their tits off while I was in there at 4 a.m. still running hash, because in the middle of a run, you don't stop. And I am single source. Not a single finger is laid on anything that I do from start to finish. So, like, I'm all about offering the information, because especially like for full melt, like I feel like it's not out there as much and it's just getting shoved to the side because there's nobody doing it. Because the most common answer I hear is, I don't know how. I don't know how. The other most common thing is, I don't know how to smoke it. So like, nobody wants to risk $100 gram of the best hash just to ruin it. But yeah, like if you haven't put in any of the effort and education and some sort of effort, like, can you all just give us a break and like stop, pick up that same book that we did, maybe Google that same thing that you're asking me to see if that's a very common situation that you could actually like reserve the time that I choose to share for the important things that are going to make a difference in hash. Me telling you how much ice to put in your machine is not going to change the outcome of your hash. Like when you get down to find these things and you can stop and look at it and be like, wait, so, okay, I feel like something's going wrong from here to here. Like, reserve some of your questions for that. Like, reach out to me with some education. I will be more than happy to assist you. But yeah, people don't realize, like, when you're getting hundreds of messages a day, just the time that we take to like double heart your message, like, thank you for acknowledging me.
How do you feel about that? That does take a lot of time, though. Not being like, oh, whatever, but that does take a lot of time. And the thing is, whatever Jen Dill is saying right now, I'm sure jennybwsp, you're dealing with that. I know people must definitely write Mila. We still do it. The thing is, at the end of the day, sometimes you just like you like look at the phone, you're like, okay, maybe I'll just say by voice. Okay, maybe what the situation is that it's not a cold enough room. Can you diagnose this? I don't know what your situation is, but the worst is when people don't respect your time enough to do a little research. The worst is, so what's hash?
You do want to help. And so it makes me feel bad sometimes because I want to be like, yeah, but like also other people's time. And so that's kind of the disrespectful piece to it, is it's time and it's peace, and like just be happy that, people are willing to help, come correct. And you could also ask, how much is your time? Dutchess, don't you teach classes? Aren't you glad to come damn near anywhere? I saw you flying all over the place.
For sure. And I also just say, also on the DM, just answering like, well, it could be temperature. Well, it could be this. I need to make a fact sheet and just like send people to that fact sheet.
Like a stop. Is it? Did you check? Did you?
On my Instagram, on my highlights, I actually have hash tips in there. And I spent something like 2 or 3 days going through questions that people had and answering them. So when people are asking me basic stuff, I'm like, hey, take yourself to the hash tips, run through that. And if you have questions after that, once you try that, okay, let's start there, because I'm very thorough in there. Like, once you try that, if you have any other questions, like, I'm happy to help, but my girlfriend Randa, she wanted to make hash for the first time, and I told her just that. I'm like, run through all my hash stuff, do it, and then when you come to different questions and variables, like, hit me up, I'll help you figure it out. She was able to do it. Like, hash making is not rocket science. It's super easy, basic principles. A lot of people try and complicate it because it is so easy. But like, yeah, get some education and like try it first, and free up our time to teach you more new things, instead of going over basic shit. So yeah, hash tips on my highlights. It's gold. Dutchess, you should definitely do those.
Oh, I'm not letting you know that I'm totally stealing the idea. I've bitten that. You've been bitten. I'm taking that. I like that idea.
Yeah. No, I'm currently doing some different things so that I can actually build this little course, like start to finish, that I was talking about, so that I can, like, you know, focus on teaching people. It's obviously going to be a pay for it course because I have to be able to sustain my life in order to do these things. But I'm going to do that. But this is like a little short version of that. And yeah, it's great. And you have enough videos that I've seen that you go through all the shit too. So you just got to organize it and fucking stick it on there. And it's great because as they're going through it, if there's questions on a specific thing, they can be like, bloop, 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 bloop. What did you mean by this? You know?
I wondered why you had made that like fairly long explanation in one of your hash stories. That makes sense. I was watching you.
Yeah, no, but so that I could save it to all my highlights.
Yeah, that's smart.
If you notice how repetitive all the questions that you get are.
Yeah. But can't you add, like, as one of the options, just to add a story highlight? Isn't that like a plus? Can't you plus story highlight and totally bypass stories?
Yeah, I think so.
Smart. Look at that, Eagle. You're like helping the hash people of the world right now. So, because we're not going to have an attitude because we're putting up the tips from now.
Yeah. No, it's actually helped me a ton because I can just be like, please go there. And then all of the basic first timer questions you get, like, and I'm just like, oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of time to do all this from start to goddamn finish. Like, this is my life. Like, what are my work hours? What is that?
Yeah.
What is work hours? You know, what is time off? Like, I'm constantly, so maximize our time.
Yeah, and now I got a whole new interest. I decided, since I can't find a house I want to live in, I'm going to try and make one with hemp and adobe style mixed. So busy for a while.
That's super cool. Are you going to stay in Amsterdam?
Well, until that place is finished, but I want to move out of the city. I want to be.
Oh. We've all got to visit.
Yeah.
We should do a women's pilgrimage to see Mila. That'd be so smart. You know, Cuban hash can be down. Oh my God, everybody would be down with that. That'd be so cool.
I was so bummed when all of you guys, right before COVID hit, when everybody was out at Spannabis, and I was like the only one over here that was like, well, I can't go.
Yeah, we like nearly. Who knows? You don't even know what we went through to get back here. So, you know what I mean? It took me 31 hours that day to get back here. I was at Dabadoo crying, just thinking about the fact that everybody was staying back. To me, it seemed like several people were staying back, and I'm like, and I'm going back, but my mom be very mad if I get stuck in Europe because of COVID. So I want to go back. It took me 31 hours to get back. But
I think actually no one got sick at that Dabadoo at all.
No, we didn't.
Nobody, yeah.
Nobody. And we were like packed in and nobody got sick.
We certainly were. We were hugging and sharing joints.
Crying, just thinking about the fact. I was thinking about the fact that everybody was staying back. To me, it seemed like several people were staying back, and I'm like, but my mom be very mad if I get stuck in Europe. Am I the only person that can hear me?
No,
I can hear you. I don't know where it's coming from though.
Actually, no one got sick at that time.
No, we didn't.
Does somebody got their YouTube playing for a chance?
Oh my gosh. That's so weird.
Yeah, that's got to be a YouTube.
I'm sorry, Eagle. I'm not you. Oh, it's you, Jenny Beth?
That was totally me. I'm sorry. I was like, wait, live on YouTube. I clicked the button and that was my fault. I'm sorry. I was trying to stop it. I was like, y'all.
Guess what, babe? We've all had our little times on this Zoom thing, right?
Oh my God, my bad.
Zoom thing. No problem.
It's just so nice to see you all. It's great.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Eagle, do you have us for a certain time? I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry if I missed how much time we're gonna be chilling with you.
No, I didn't ask you guys for a certain time, and I don't want to overstay the welcome here. That's for sure. So anytime you guys want to wrap it up, we wrap it up.
I'm just
and,
saying, because isn't
hopefully
it like
shoot for another day?
yeah, isn't it 11 by you, Mila? I mean, we don't want to keep you up
It's
forever.
already nearly 11:40.
Oh, we'll see. That's a little late.
And how
Feel
long?
the night owl.
Everybody.
It's great.
We're all on growers time. We stay up late, right?
Generally. Not me. I'm getting
Well-
old. I'm trying to go to bed at like 10:30. This will work, but like I am.
Well, you guys got me slightly intimidated to ask questions after that last little rant. They do have some questions a little bit. Is there some books that you could suggest on starting a hash journey, or is there a good place to get supplies for their hash making stuff like that? It's a couple questions that's been through. I know they're kind of questions. But they have been
Eagle, don't
asked.
think that we're not trying to. Okay, let's not have that perception. Don't take it like that. Okay, we're like venting a little bit, but literally we are dealing with dozens of the same questions that can be Googled. But right now we have a platform, right, Jenny Beth? Right, we can talk. If you're in Europe, you better be buying isolated stuff from Mila. I mean, you'd be messing up if you're not doing that. She invented this. She invented it, so you should be buying from her. If you were in the United States, you know, there are a couple of bag companies. Don't act like y'all don't know about the bag companies, whether it's going to be Double Man, Bolt, Micron Extracts, or Ice Extracted. There's some companies.
Right.
Don't get your bags on Amazon. I'm just saying that part. Okay.
Well, I maybe will say there's the exception. You can get your bags on Amazon if you intend on running hash twice in a year.
Oh.
And by all means, please buy your bags on Amazon. If you are that grower that is just wanting to wash his very own outdoor or crop, please buy them on Amazon. There is no reason to be spending $1,000 and upwards for bags that you're only going to use
That's understandable.
a couple times. Because we got to remember, we're not just dealing with people that want the quantity that they're running through. We are catering to a lot of these people that are wanting to create their own, and they don't have the same circumstances we do. And I would say, like, I would spend the extra money on a better AC or a cool bot to cool your room rather than spending $1,000 on a bag set. Because if you're going to run it, you know, just a couple times, I hate to say it, but like the first couple runs I did was in Amazon bags. And
but I have Amazon bags, but I guess I'm trying to say, like, the $1,000 set, let's be honest, that's a 20-gallon set. If you are buying a 20-gallon set, you are making enough that you should get better bags. If you're doing a 5-gallon set,
how much are the 5-gallon?
Huh?
Do you know approximately how much? I guess I haven't.
I think they're like around $300, and yes, that is much more. But if you're saying $300, but you don't expect to be getting a whole bunch of 6-star, that your bags like literally matter. Your bags, your tools, all that matter, and definitely, you know, I feel like we all put money to some degree in what we really, really, really care about. And all of us have sacrificed to something for our own personal hash. But if you're going to call yourself a hash artist, then elevate to that standard. You're not doing it on Bubble Dude bags. You're not winning any cups on those bags. So put like respect to that situation by getting the right thing. I'm not saying to get the, a 32-gallon set that's going to be $2,000. I think that's crazy. But I myself have bought a couple sets of those Amazon bags, and you know what? Then I went and got the right bags, because when the bag is all crinkled up like this and the seams are all messed up and it's like 73 micron over here and it's 67 micron over there, that matters.
I agree.
You guys have favorite bags?
You got to keep in mind there's levels.
There's levels to this. So depending on what you're trying to do, from amateur to professional, if you're trying to put yourself up on the, don't you know my name? I made all this. You pay for your bags.
Are you guys using the full set, or are there certain micron bags that you're partial to, or is that strain dependent?
I'll let Jen go with that.
It's strain dependent for me, except for the very first wash of a brand new strain. So I'll run it through all of them the very first time so that I can see where it falls. I feel like if I eliminate any of the middle ones, it doesn't give me as good of a read. It also depends on whether this is going to be a freeze dried for rosin or whether I'm trying to separate it out for air dried. So yeah, I'll run all of them the first, with the exception of the 25, because I just won't waste my time on that. I don't even like pressing it. Call me crazy, but yeah. So yeah, but after I do that first run or two, like I'll eliminate whatever bags don't seem to produce any type of result, just, you know, based on how much I have to run. So it varies.
I'm always running a 45, a 73. On the first run, I will run a 90, generally not a 120, the 160, or 150, based on bag type. So I'm generally running a 5 bag set on the first run. I don't like to separate my 73 and 90. If it's a strain, again, like she said, that I've not done before, and especially if I'm doing it for someone else, I do feel that people often want to have first pull 90. So I'll give you first pull 90, and then I will go back to my standard of 45, 70, or 73 to much higher, which would be 149 or 159. That's like the range I like to keep my resin. It's not a full melt, but a broader spectrum hash is what I provide. Mm-hmm. So in that time, I'm using a 4-bag system. 25 almost never, just because everybody knows that 25 takes too long.
Yep. And it also kind of just depends on the extraction that you're doing and what your end goal is. You know, if you're just dropping all of it for rosin, like, you can take some of those middle bags out, because again, you're going to be filtering that in addition to what you're doing now anyway. So I feel like the importance really falls mostly on whether you're air drying and really trying to get, you know, that quality air dried melt. Yeah, if you're just going to freeze dry all of it anyway and filter it through rosin bags, then it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, almost pulling those additional bags to compensate for the time that you need to use to squish. Like, you're now able to eliminate a certain part of the process that now you can allocate that time to the squishing it. So rather than filtering it on the front end, you are taking that out of the equation because you're just going to filter it on the back end anyway. So that's another way that I kind of determine what I'm going to run. Yeah.
You can, of course, order the bags at info@pollinator.nl. We also sell them separately, so you could just get the 4 or 5 that you want. The postage to the States would come on top, but I think our prices are very competitive. I listened to $1,000, $2,000.
Tell you, Mila, they're making money hand over fist here, Mila. You invented it, so by all means, hand over fist over here. By the way, Jen, I'll have you know, I know you're not a Miss Freeze Dried, and you know how I appreciate about your air dried. I know you know how I appreciate your air dried. I've been freeze drying since 2015, and my freeze dry tech is there. Just saying, and you know I'm not pushing it to rosin. Mm-hmm. That's not happening. That's not where I'm like directing all my energy. But anyone who doesn't know about having beautiful resin and air dried, where you can see all the little crystals, like little sugar cubes of love, Jen right there. She definitely is the one.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm just accustomed to that over, like, what I want to do is I kind of want to do a comparison between air dried and freeze dried, like down to that scientific level, because I feel like when we freeze dry something, it's taking out part of that longevity that we're missing, that we've talked about earlier. Because I've noticed even like before I got my freeze dryer and I was pressing my air dried into rosin, I also noticed a difference. I haven't been able to do the side by side, so obviously it's strain by strain, but like consistently over the smoking air dried versus having something that was freeze dried, one of the very consistent things I noticed was it was just shorter duration, you know, and there's a lot of things that can cause that. But it would be really interesting to do same batch and do partially air dried, partially freeze dried. I know I've done a comparison under the microscope as far as how the heads look. And now that I'm getting my lab redone so that I can do some of these courses and stuff. I really want to start looking at that, but I'd like to look at the science behind like what exactly is that freeze dryer taking out of there, you know? Like,
I mean, in terms of lyophilization and that whole process, because I mean, I'm gonna tell you, I taste a lot of freeze dried crap, just like terrible. People apparently, Lord, people are freeze drying at 70 degrees. It's like, what are y'all doing? And they're like, oh, that's how you're not getting it nucleated. Well, that's way too high. You're like frying the crap out of your material. And I'll be the first to say, when Frenchie and I first were freeze drying, because I got in on Frenchie's machine in 2015. So I've been freeze drying for a long time. The very first bit of stuff that we were doing, we were frying the crap out of it because we didn't know to adjust the temp shelf of the shelf temp, because under vacuum at the time it was packaged at 120 degrees. That was like, we were coming out and all the rest of them was pressed already. You take it out of the freeze dryer, that shit was just brown and over the entire thing, right? It was working with Tony Vizura in 2016. Well, he was drying it for me for the most part. And then 2017, I was doing all the freeze drying, that using that machine and seeing all the ways that you can screw it up. And I'm gonna be honest, I was using Scientific. Scientific is like the best in terms of being able to dial in. I'm using a farm now, but I was using the Scientific. And I've seen a lot of, you know, at the time people were like, oh, it tastes bad. And a lot of people freeze dry badly. I mean, they just don't have the right numbers, you know. Their setup is not really as dialed in, partially because when it comes out and it's not, I remember this one dude like laced into me in my DM. He was like, that's not true. Cause I had said, basically, you should be able to take a card and like just cut it with a card. You can feel it. It makes this kind of like cracking, like as if you were cutting into sugar type of, because it's all the heads are now discrete. They're now, all the water is gone from them. And hopefully you haven't over dried it. But when you have ambient temperature that is too warm, so a lot of people are taking their things out of the freeze dryer and suddenly it's 70 degrees and you're like, I'm wondering why everything is sticking together, because it's too warm in which you're doing it. But it should be able to be fantastic. And I have seen really, really good freeze dried. It's really bad freeze dried. We all see really bad air dried. I mean, people are just leaving things in pucks and whatever like that. But I feel that when done right, I think me and you washing together, being real honest, Jen. I'm coming back to the East Coast, Jen.
Girl, I just told you I'm getting my hash lab worked on right now. So
and Jenny Beth, she flies. We know Jenny Beth flies. Girl, you are here in the Bay all the time. So you come from LA, we go to the East Coast. We got the West Coast meeting the East Coast, make some hash. We can make that happen.
I can make that happen. That'd be so fun.
And then we all go to Amsterdam and do it with Mila.
Yes.
That is a shorter flight to London.
A little while.
I'm being practical.
Well, ladies, this is probably a good point, and as the Duchess pointed out, I should be very respectful to the Queen. She has been very gracious to stay up with us and hang out with us this evening, and I'm always grateful for Amelia's time. So I'd like to tell you guys very much, thank you guys for hanging out today, sitting and letting me sit here and be schooled by you lovely ladies has been 100% a pleasure. As far as chat goes, they have loved this, by the way. this, me aside, this is something you guys should really think about, because this is something that Chad has really enjoyed. They have gave you guys serious props all through this. As far as education goes, they've made across the board. They would all be interested in any kind of education that you guys could put together as far as hash goes. And I can't think of anybody more qualified to give incredible extract advice than you lovely ladies. So I hope that all that stuff comes true. I wish you guys the best for the rest of this summer. Miss Jenn Doe, I hope to do an episode with you. I've had the pleasure of doing a spotlight episode with the other three ladies here, and I would love to do one with you as well. So hopefully you can take me up on that. But other than that, this has been an awesome experience, and I cannot thank you ladies enough for sitting here and making me just sweat through this whole thing.
Silly eagle.
I've listened to a few of your shows, and I must say, this is the least I've heard of you. But
it's funny you say that, because a couple people have asked me how I was going to approach this episode. You know, they thought it'd be just as intimidating as I thought it would be. And I said, well, I think the best thing to do is just basically get the conversation going and shut the fuck up and sit back and let it happen. It's the best recipe for a ladies episode. And I think it worked out for the best, to be honest. Yeah.
I think we did fine.
Well, on a good note, we're all friends already. So like you're kind of just here while we're having our Good Morning Wake and Bake FaceTime that we do like once every year. So like, welcome.
It's been way too long. It's been way, way too long. It's really nice to have this big gathering of you ladies.
Yes.
Very nice to see.
Y'all are all gonna get something in the IG. Cause sorry, Eagle, you were fantastic and everything, but we do need to do what we need to do. So we'll make it happen again. Thank you for jumpstarting it, Eagle. Appreciate it.
Gotta go do her story.
Thank you. Can you guys make sure and throw out all your guys' IGs and all that good stuff? So if they live under a rock and can't find you, they will find you.
Are you still recording little snippets? Is everybody gonna have to say fucking talking shit with Eagle? I still remember from the first time.
I would dig that. The Dutchess already ducked out on us, but if we think we can coordinate that, do you think that's possible? That we can get hello, this is the ladies of Hash, and we're on fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 439. You guys think you guys can do that on maybe a 3 count?
Can you repeat that?
Right?
Man, can you guys give me a sound bite? Maybe something along the lines of like, oh, here's the date. Here's the Dutchess. Hold on.
Where's she at?
Go over. She's coming back.
There she is.
There she is.
My
Miss
battery's
Dutchess. Can we get the sound bite? Basically, what I'm looking for, maybe we can do it on like a 3 count, is the sound bite and something along the lines of, hey, we are the ladies of Hash, and we're on fucking Talking Shit with Eagle, episode 439.
Hey, we are the ladies of Hash, and we are on we are on fucking. You're real high, man. You messed up with that one.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, I'm not gonna. That's way too long.
Hey, wait.
You guys, all right, you guys do whatever you want.
Wait, are we supposed to say it together?
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
That seems like that seems hard.
Hey.
Can we like type it out first?
We are or we're
choreography.
Yeah.
This is now choreography.
We're
not in the contract.
We're it's the group. We're ladies.
We are now. We are okay.
Just fucking talking shit
Talking shit with Eagles.
Fucking
We are
talking
on.
Eagle.
Wait, no, I really need us to say it from start to finish so I can type it out. I'm not even kidding you.
That's
We're
smart.
ladies of hash. What?
Jen, I want to eat these tacos so bad before I start my
What?
Well, then what am I
over
supposed
here being the scribe.
Wait, we're the ladies of hash.
We're on fucking talking shit with Eagle.
Is there an and? Is there an and we're on? I think there should be an and. And
Okay, and
okay, we're just gonna get it. We're trying to get it right for you there, Eagle. Just give us a moment.
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
practice.
If one thing I've learned in life, it's never to rush a lady. So you guys
Thank you.
take your time.
Eagle. And it's episode 439.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
What do we say about the episode, or can we like skip that part just to simplify it?
Girl, you typed it. You typed it. We're reading.
So what are we saying? Episode what?
Okay.
39.
439.
439.
So this is what I have, y'all. Let's say I have a hey, we're the ladies. I didn't even have to say a 420. Wait.
Do we start with hey? Do we start with hey?
Okay.
I thought.
Okay, we almost said it. Ready. Okay. Hey, we're the ladies of hash, and we're on fucking talking shit with Eagle episode 439. Is that it?
Boom.
Fantastic.
Okay.
That's it.
Yes. Okay, I typed it. We're good.
So
We
we-
say
Ready?
hey?
Can somebody text it to me?
Oh my God.
Jenny, the woman has to go to sleep. She has to go to sleep.
Let's go. I got it. One hitter quitter. Let's do it.
You just rolled a new
Ready?
joint.
1, 2, 3.
Hey, we're the ladies of hash.
And we're on fucking shit.
Fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 439.
You need
She's not even reading, and she got it. We'll get it this time. This time, we'll get it. Okay.
Take 2. 1, 2, 3.
Hey, we're the ladies
ladies
of
of
hash, and we're on fucking talking shit with Eagle. Episode 439.
439. I feel like it's a bunch of us trying to sing happy birthday, and some of us are like,
Like, forgot the person's name or whatever.
I'm gonna take that because I believe that's the closest I'm ever gonna get to having 5 ladies do anything I want at once. So that's perfect. That's perfect. I'm gonna take that. That's perfect. Thank you guys.
Wow.
Thank you, Eagle. It's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure, and hopefully we can do this all again, for real. Because, like I said, they've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed it.
And enjoyable.
Sure has made my weekend. So, thank you guys so much. Well, that's the end of this episode 439, the ladies of hash. I can't thank you guys enough. We are out of here. Please don't forget, random acts of kindness do save lives. Try to do something nice for somebody today, this weekend. Thank you for tuning in. We are out of here. Thank you, ladies.